to South Korea, and the number of cases are growing there and in Italy and Iran.
And now concerns growing at a hotel in Spain where a case was just confirmed. There are now more than 80,000 cases worldwide, and the outbreak is also sparking fears on Wall Street, the Dow plunging more than 1,000 points on Monday. We're going to have more on that in a moment. But first, James Longman joins us from Milan. Good morning, James.
Yeah, good morning, Robin. Milan is much quieter than usual, but as Italy does what it can to control this outbreak, we're seeing the dangerous potential for the spread. Infection breaking out from here to both Spain and Croatia.
This morning, the urgent race to stop the global spread of coronavirus and the potential for contamination now clear, as an Italian doctor has now tested positive in a Spanish hotel, forcing more than 1,000 guests to get tested. He visited the hospital yesterday with fever and COVID-19 symptoms, and he's now in isolation. All guests are being told to stay in their rooms until results are back. And in Croatia, the first confirmed case. A man also recently in the Milan region of Italy, the patient described as young and his symptoms mild. In Italy, the number of reported cases at over 200, an increase that World Health officials call deeply concerning. A number of countries now restricting travel to or from the Italian red zone, and Kuwait the first to stop flights to the country. 50,000 residents across 12 towns are under lockdown as the death toll rises to at least 7. The normally bustling streets of Milan, much quieter than usual. Dana Rogers from Wisconsin runs a business here.
My family's worried because you watch the news and you see the supermarkets and you hear about cities being quarantined. So my mom yesterday was like, I'm really worried. I think you should come home.
The number of cases also at worrying levels in South Korea. Overnight, authorities raiding the headquarters of this church in Gwacheon, where the first COVID-19 case was reported. Health officials trying to test its more than 200,000 members. As the World Health Organization struggles to figure out exactly how the virus is transmitted, health officials say it could turn into a global pandemic. The CDC issuing its highest travel warning, telling Americans to avoid all non-essential travel.
It's time to do everything you would do in preparing for a pandemic.
And in the U.S.,
the 1,000 points, its worst day in 2 years, wiping out this year's gains completely. The virus tonight now jumping to Europe. In fact, a new cluster we're following in Italy. At least 219 cases, and tonight at least 12 towns are on lockdown. They are still trying to figure out who is patient zero, who brought it there. While here in the U.S., growing alarm, and now a number of communities saying, do not bring your patients to our hometowns. We're live on Wall Street tonight and overseas. James Longman from Italy now.
Fighting an invisible enemy. Tonight, the number of COVID-19 cases in the U.S. climbing to 53 after tests confirm new cases among those former cruise ship passengers. It comes as towns fight plans to move infected patients into isolation in their communities. Frustration boiling over at this city council meeting in Anniston, Alabama.
It spreads from here, it's going to spread everywhere else.
And a judge in California temporarily blocking the state from using a facility for infected patients in Costa Mesa.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's putting more people at risk.
And tonight, Italy, the latest front line in Europe's battle with the virus. 12 now dead in the north of the country, 229 infected. About 50,000 residents quarantined in their own homes.
This is the police line. Beyond here are the 12 towns that are on lockdown. And take a look. On Google Maps, you can see every way in is shut down.
As the hunt for patient zero continues, 23-year-old resident Rosella showed us her virtual
hours. Fresh cases have been confirmed in countries around the globe. The number of cases worldwide of the new coronavirus is now more than 80,000 across 36 countries. China has 77,658 confirmed cases and an additional 2,824 suspected ones. But significant clusters have developed in South Korea, Japan and Iran. South Korea plans to test 200,000 members of a religious sect at the center of the outbreak there. Well, 11 people have now died from the virus in the country, and the number of confirmed infections is close to 1,000. In the last hour, Iran's deputy health minister has tested positive for the virus. In Europe, Austria and Croatia have reported their first cases. From Italy, Japan and Singapore, our correspondents have the very latest. Let's begin with our correspondent Bethany Bell in Italy, the scene of the continent's largest outbreak.
Here in Milan, you can feel the impact of the fears about the coronavirus. The Duomo The cathedral behind me has been closed to tourists. No masses are taking place. There's been an impact on the Milan Fashion Week at the moment, and over in Venice, which should be celebrating the climax of the very famous Venice Carnival, those celebrations as well have been stopped because of fears of the virus spreading. A cluster of towns in Lombardy and also a couple in Veneto involving about 50,000 people have been quarantined, and this is an area where they had a spike in the number of cases. The authorities are hoping that if they can try and keep people from moving out of those towns, they may try and be able to halt the spread of this disease. Meanwhile, though, it seems to be spreading to other countries in Europe. Just over the border in Austria, officials have confirmed the first 2 cases we understand to have been occurred in Austria itself, 2 people in the state of Tyrol. This is something which certainly here in Italy is creating a great deal of concern. We've just come from the area close to the quarantine zones. People there are nervous. Some people say that the government has not reacted quickly enough, and they say it's very important that people should stick to these measures. Other people say this is perhaps somewhat of an overreaction, and that panic is the thing that people have to be the most afraid of.
Mark, what do you see there?
Well, we're just outside of Codogno, about 7 kilometers, 5 or so miles away. This is the limit of the area of northern Italy that has been affected by the virus outbreak, and the numbers have continued to rise. The latest Italian health report here says there have been more than 50 new cases overnight, and that the total number of those afflicted is now approaching 300. Police have cordoned off areas near Milan and Venice, where about 50,000 people live. But the question is whether all the cases of the virus reported in Italy can be traced to this region. In Venice, where this is normally carnival time, the party's over, canceled days early. The masks have changed, and people are getting out of town. As everywhere, the deaths associated with the virus have affected the most vulnerable. Luigi D'Angelo is coordinating Italy's emergency response.
The doctors told us clearly that the people have died because they were infected by other problems of health.
They were already sick.
Yeah, they were already sick, and the coronavirus has amplified their sickness.
The World Health Organization hasn't pressed the panic button and has refrained from calling this a pandemic. This is not an uncontained global spread, they say.
The disease, it's still possible to be contained, but if some fail, if some do not do everything that is needed,